back to Middle-earth SBG Rules You'd Like to See, the series where we discuss what we'd like to see in the rules for Middle-earth strategy battle game going forwards. You're of course here with your GBHL channel host GBHL James
and GBHL Steve.
And this episode is all about the Fallen Realms. So we're going to be discussing Isengard, we're going to be discussing Haradrim, and we're also going to be discussing the Eastern Kingdoms. So before we start this video, as always, a disclaimer: this is just the opinion of GBHL Steve and myself. This is in no way, shape or form what is going to happen, what should happen. This is just a couple of nerds discussing what we think we'd like to happen going forwards. No better place to start things off than with Isengard. Now, Isengard is actually a pretty well thought out list, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it's a good list. You see it quite often still, which kind of proves how much of a good list it is from the early days, because it was one of the first.
Yeah, obviously it came out with 2 towers.
Yeah, it's a good list.
They've stood out the test of time. It's a very well thought out list. It's very balanced across the board. But one area that I would say that it probably does need to look at, which we'll look at today, is there is a clear hierarchy of troops and heroes. So we've got a couple of little ideas about how we could fix this going forwards into Middle-earth strategy battle game. So at the top of the list we've got Saruman. Now actually Saruman is a fantastic profile. I don't think you need to do much at all with him. So we move down straight away, I think, and we're going to come to probably a profile that most people would agree probably does need a tweak. It's Lurtz.
It's been spoken about a lot on a lot of occasions, hasn't it? A lot of people have brought it up, and I think the faults are fairly obvious, really, when you look at it.
Yeah, so Lurtz is very much kind of your named hero scout leader, you know, as he should be really in some ways, but it does seem like a very dated profile, and although he's pretty good, he's probably not good enough to be you know, a regular inclusion. So let's have a little bit of a look at his profile. Now he's 60 points, so 60 points is pretty much the kind of basis for all of the named sort of captains as it were, across the board, all of who benefit like he does from having that extra point of might. Just like the ranked Uruk-hai across the board, he's fight 5, he's also strength 5, he's defense 5, which we'll come to, he's got 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 4, and then he's 3-1-1. Now, one of the big talking points when it comes to Lurtz is that he comes with armor, shield, and orc bow. Yeah. Armor, shield, and orc bow. However, he doesn't get to benefit from that shield, does he? No,
he's got the same armour as other characters have, but he has a shield as standard. But then he's the same defense value as the characters that haven't got a shield. So he should be defense 6. I think that's everyone knows that he should be defense 6. And if he was defense 6, just that single change alone, I think you'd see him a lot more. Yeah, but there is other things as well. Yeah, I mean, if you could get him up to be in defense 6, so effectively allow him to benefit from that, it puts him in a kind of a nice kind of little niche in the list itself. You know, having that kind of defense 6, so in between what you can go to with an Uruk-hai captain, defense 7, but also above what you can get to with the named Uruk-hai heroes such as Ugluk and Malheur and Rasku. Yes, for example. So having the ability to do that would be great. But I think another area that has been suggested would also be to either buff his bow or his shoot value in some kind of way, shape or form, because of course in the movies it is his bow shots which do kill Boromir. Now yes, he's at point blank range. Yes, that's true, but it'd be nice to be able to recreate them scenes on the tabletop. So yeah, an increased shoot value would probably be the best way. Another way would be possibly multiple attacks, but I think that might be too powerful. Yeah, and it makes him too much like Vrasku. Makes him too much like Vrasku. So you have to look. Well, if you're going to take a Uruk-hai hero that is going to bring something shooting to the table that's going to be different, what kind of areas that you could bring in? Well, I think one way that you could do it is you could give him a longbow, so it's strength 3. You know, instead of having the orc bow, maybe that's a way of looking at it, but that's not going to necessarily make him as good as Vrasku. One little idea that we've both had would actually be to create some kind of benefit for Lurtz being in a scout force. So if you have a all-scout army led by Lurtz, there are certain benefits, and I think that one of those benefits, which we will come on to when we discuss about scouts, I think the benefit of giving a 3+ shoot value across the board to both Lurtz and all of these scouts that are armed by bows would suddenly make them a little bit more of a viable option, and maybe then we'd see a few more Uruk-hai scout armies across the board.
So next up, we come to the next named Urukai, and it's Ugluk, the head taker. So what do we think about Ugluk?
Ugluk's a strong profile. The only issue that I've got with Ugluk is his special rule. I've played against Ugluk once or twice, not very often, because he's another one that doesn't come that often, for obvious reasons. But when I've played against him, I've never seen his special rule come into play. It's redundant. There's no point in it when you've got, like you said, you've got Fury. There's no point having it.
His special rule is made redundant by the fact that you can take Urukai Shamans in this force, and Fury, as it stands, means that why would you sacrifice, and remember Urukai aren't cheap troops. Urukai aren't cheap troops, they tend to be around sort of the 10 points plus marker. So why would you sacrifice an Urukai in order to do it? Now don't get me wrong, you could take along an Ugluk force where you take some cheap orc spear support or the like, you know, to be able to do that, but with Fury around, why would you do that? So all of a sudden you're taking a defense 5 named character that really isn't bringing too much to the table because Fury does the job. Now what we suggest that you do is go and check out our first Rules We'd Like to See video where we discuss the Hobbit rules going forward and where we actually discuss what we would do with Fury. That could be one way of making him a little bit more relevant. But I also think that a good way of doing it is actually make it not so that it's just courage tests and stand fast, but it's also it pass all courage tests, not just from a standpoint point of view, so for charging terror causing models as well, and you could also maybe give the save, the sort of 6+ save in there as well, and all of a sudden for the cost of removing a temper, you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be worth it this turn because it's going to get rid of this. I'm going into a particularly awkward combat or group of combats, selection of combats, right, well I need to make sure I can charge in on these monsters and I need to have an advantage in the battle line, so I need that kind of save. So I think if you fix Fury and also have a little bit of a look at a medal with Head Taker special rule, then you might see a few more Ugluks across our tables. So we're going to go straight past Greener because Greener is more than fine, but he doesn't need bringing down any kind of way, and we are going to come to the Dunlanding chieftain, that is Thryden Wolfsbane. What do we think about Thryden?
Again, Thryden, you do see him because people like to bring that rare Dunland force that you don't see very often. I see a lot more of them now than I did 6 months ago. But his fight value being at 4, it's not good enough. Not for the leader of the Dunlandings. He should be 5/5 without a doubt.
Yeah, that's maybe one thing to look at. So the thing with Thryden is he is your mid-level points kind of hero in the Urukai force. You've got a lot of heroes around that kind of 60 point, 50, 60 point kind of marker. But then you've also got, you've not really got anything in the middle, and then you've got Saruman and Grima kind of up at the top. So he can come in and fill that role. But the thing is, he is only fight 4. He doesn't have a fight value of a chieftain, as it were. He's got a fight value of kind of like an elite man, and with his points cost doesn't really kind of reflect that. Now he does have some great special rules with Mighty Blow, and the range of his standfast is really, really good. So although you could look at increasing his fight value to fight 5, and that would all still be good, another area where we think would make him really relevant, especially in today's game, would be to introduce Burley.
I agree. I think Burley would it definitely offset a couple of the points that we spoke about, where the reasons why you wouldn't bring him, because along with his special rule, that just makes him formidable. He'd be a good hero with that.
Now I'm not necessarily of the cat, especially if you do make him fight 5. If you do make him fight 5 and increase his fight value ever slightly, and you give him Burley, you know, at the same points, maybe he does need to be slightly more expensive. Yeah. But one way that you could encourage more Dunlanding armies, pure Dunlanding armies, because remember that is one of the big things that we're going to be looking at when we're looking across all of the source books, is what don't we see on the tables and what are the reasons behind that. One way that you could encourage Dunlanding armies led by Thryden is that if you've got a pure Dunlanding force, give everybody Burley. That's Wildmen of Dunland, that's also your Dunland warriors, and also Thryden, and also the chieftains.
Yeah, I mean that might sound like you're getting a lot for doing that, but with Dunland you don't get a lot of options really. So I think that's a really good idea.
You don't get a lot of options, and you have to of course pay to have a two-handed weapon, which a lot of people probably won't do. But that's a really good way of encouraging and rewarding you for bringing that kind of force. So I think that would be a good way to go when it comes to fixing Thryden, and ultimately when we get to them, the Dunlanding warrior profiles as well. So after that we get to Sharku's, fine, Vrasku's fine, we see a lot of Vrasku, but I think that we would possibly see a little bit less if we went down the roads that we did too with Lurtz. Malheur, nothing wrong with him, he's an option, people do like to bring him. Maybe Malheur could be included in that whole scout army idea with Lurtz, and Ugluk as well. So I encourage you to bring those heroes together, and all of a sudden you've got an 8-inch, 8-inch move-in, 3+ shoot value army, which would be great. Urukai Captains are very, very solid, and Urukai Shamans seem to be fine, but we will stop at Urukai Shamans because, as we were talking about in our main rules, we'd like to see Fury is what we'd like to see tweaked.
Yeah, it needs to be tweaked. It is overpowerful. I use it quite a lot, so I know how good it is. And it can be the difference in a game.
Absolutely, and people do tend to bring Shamans a lot if you've got access to them. So as such, if something's become a bit of an auto-include, maybe something needs a tweak. And as we discussed in that previous video, we've got a few little ideas about what we think would be good to fix Fury, and therefore fix all of the Shamans, not just the Orc Shaman. Again, nothing particularly wrong with Orc Captains, Dunlending Chieftain. We've already talked about Dunlending Chieftain. If you have a pure Dunland force led by a Thryden, then of course if he was to get Burly, then that would make him just that little bit more worthy. So the final hero probably is going to be Sharky and Worm, and don't actually think that there is too much wrong with Sharky and Worm, but going along that same kind of theme of trying to introduce and encourage good themes, maybe you could tie in some kind of rule that then benefits the ruffians that would go along with them in a Sharky and Worm ruffian force. So those are the heroes of Isengard. Next up, it's on to the warriors. And what do we start off with here?
Urukai Scouts. What do you think of Urukai Scouts?
I think Urukai Scouts are gorgeous models. I love the Urukai Scout army. But the issue that Urukai Scouts suffer from, I think the profile across the board is absolutely fine. It makes absolute sense. Their war gear and everything makes absolute sense. But they suffer from the fact that you can get an Urukai warrior with an extra point of defense for that 1 point.
Yeah.
So unless you are going for the theme of Scouts, it's probably worth paying that extra point to be able to go up to defense 6 rather than defense 5. Absolutely. So that's where Urukai Scouts tend to lose out. So we come back to that idea to encourage certain kind of builds. What can you do to encourage certain heroes leading certain troop types? And again, if you're taking Lurtz, Malheur, Ugluk, as the heroes in that pure Urukai Scout list, then perhaps give them all a 3+ shoot value.
Yeah, because then you've got something over the standard warriors, which they can't shoot anyway, so
absolutely,
yeah, definitely,
absolutely. So that's what we would do to fix the Urukai Scouts. So the next troops and warriors that we're actually going to discuss are actually the Berserkers and Ferals in particular. Now they're both very interesting elite profiles, and Ferals clearly are designed to be kind of like the elite scouts, as it were. So I think when you're looking at that profile in particular, remember it's 12 points, you get a lot for that, you've got the fight 4 of an Uruk, strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 1 wound and courage 5, so the same courage as an elf, but this is for 12 points, so pretty cheap for all of that. So I think when you compare them with Urukai Scout, if you're going to make them an elite Urukai Scout and you're going to have a 2 attack model, kind of like a mini Berserker, I think straight away I look at that and I think, well, they've just got armour and the Scout just has armour. I think Feral Urukai should be defense 4.
Yes, I agree.
They don't seem to have much going on with them. They're not the same kind of level in my mind as what's going on with the Berserker. So I think make them defense 4 and possibly even drop their courage by 1 as well, because they are an elite scout and scouts are courage 3. Make Ferals courage 4 to show that they are an elite scout, and I think immediately you fix that profile, even if you have to reduce their points cost by 1 or so. But I actually think 12 points for 1 less courage and -1 defense, I think that you'd still see them being put in.
Yeah.
Which gives us that opportunity to then come back and look at the Berserker. Now I actually think the Berserker is probably one of the best troops in the game, and is pointed as such in a lot of ways, and I think it's been made better by the fact that, of course, in the new Hobbit rules, he doesn't have to go two-handed. No. Which is pretty good. But when you look at that profile again, inexplicably in some ways, he is defense 6. Now he doesn't have any armor, doesn't have shields, and I understand that that is to represent it taking quite a bit to take this guy down.
Yeah, it means he can take strikes and shrug them off, but still they're going to take the toll on him. Defense 6 is very high.
I think defense 6 is quite high for the fact that he doesn't seem to be an armoured model. Now I would personally, I'd be quite in favour of actually giving Urukai Berserkers an extra wound if you're going to reduce their defence in line with the whole shield and armour thing. I wouldn't be adverse to that, than being a 2 wound model to represent the fact that they can take a few hits. But they're also courage 7. Now the only other things really in the game that courage 7 are wizards.
Yeah.
Wizards. Now I understand that that is to represent that they really just don't care and go in it, but there is an awful lot going on there. So I'm not saying that Berserkers are something that need tweaking, because you pay for them.
Yeah.
They're expensive, but if I was going to look at an Urukai Berserker profile, I would probably think of maybe defense 5 or even defense 4, and increasing the wounds, and maybe just dropping that courage down ever so slightly.
Yeah, 5 or 6. The next troop we're going to be looking at is the Dunlending Warrior. We've touched on Dunlending before, and we kind of think that the Burley special rule for a pure Dunlend force would just be a thumbs up really for that force. So I mean, other than that, the Dunlending Warrior is quite a good profile. He gets a lot of options, whereas the Wildman of Dunlend profile is, for the points, it's not a bad profile, but the option, you just got a lack of options what you can do with him. You know, you get the option of a 2-handed weapon and that's it. I just think give them a few more options. Give them a banner option. Give them a bow option. Maybe not a shield option. I know why they've not got a shield option, but you know, just a couple more things then to make it more interesting. There's a reason why I say that when we come on to the Ruffians later, but we'll speak about that on the Ruffians. What do you think? Yeah, I think definitely, again, you want to look at profiles that you don't see on the table, apart from that rare occasion where someone has invested quite a lot of money in getting rare metal models and just wants to put them on the table. And you want to look and go, well, how can I make them, not make everything super competitive, that's not what we're looking at, but just make things ever so slightly more viable. And you know, you look at the advantages of the Wildman of Dunlend, and the advantage is that, you know, it's cheap. It's cheap, but I think that if you are going to include them, I think that if you've got them in there in a pure Dunlending force, again, give that Burley benefit. So you know, maybe you would pay an extra point, 6 points a model, to have a model that's strength 3 wounding with +1, because you've got a pure Dunlending force. I think that would be quite a nice little touch and way of improving that whole Dunlending thing. And the final profile that we're going to look at before we move on to the Haradrim and the Umbar is actually going to be the Ruffians, isn't it, Steve? It is. As we spoke about before, it's almost exactly the same as a Wildman of Dunlend, except they've got 1 less courage, and they have some nice options. You can get a bow or a whip, which, I mean, that adds a lot to the profile. You've got another facet to your attacking options in your army. And again, I think we also said that a buff for using Worm and Sharky and Worm, that's the one. That'd be cool with that army.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd see a lot more of them.
Absolutely. So some kind of buff again. These are tough models to get hold of course. They're a bit rarer, and they're not particularly competitive, are they? They're absolute chaff. So you look and you see, well, what are their strengths? They are strength 4, and you can get them with bows. So again, maybe some kind of benefit with Sharky and Worm being included in force, or being around each other, or some kind of buff that Sharky and Worm gives to them specifically. I don't think it necessarily needs to be an army-wide thing, like you must only take Ruffians in order to get that kind of benefit, not in the same way as you would do maybe with Dunlend, because Dunlendings, you know, you kind of want to see like your full Dunlending armies, whereas you can imagine a Sharky and Worm and a warband, like a little brigand, as it were, of
maybe
Ruffians.
maybe like a banner buff or something like that for being in range of one of the two.
Yeah, either a banner buff of some kind or a courage buff of some kind, something along those lines. I think would probably work reasonably well with Ruffians, and then we might see a few more of those on our tables. So next up we are going to be talking about Harad and Umbar. And the first hero we come to when we're looking at a Haradrim list, it is of course the named Ringwraith, the Betrayer. Now actually at first glance, the Betrayer is actually pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, he is a good profile. I mean, most of the name wraiths are good profiles, but you don't really see this guy that much.
No, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So when you look at his profile, he is a little bit of a mixture between two different types of heroes. He is a support hero because he of course gives the buff, the buff to poison, which of course you see a lot of in a Haradrim list, re-rolling 1s and 2s, which is absolutely huge. It's absolutely huge to be able to do that. But he's also a bit of a combat wraith with his Bane of Kings and those types of things as well. Now the issues where he falls down, in my opinion, is because of, again, a clear kind of hierarchy a lot of the time. Because when you look at named raids, Knight of Umbar is so good that when you're going to take somebody for that kind of roles, particularly with this kind of list maybe, the Knight of Umbar tends to get in first before him, and then of course you've got the Undying and you've got Kamul, who all kind of take a bit of a lead over this guy. We can immediately make a little bit of a fix with him, even from a support hero point of view. His transfix is exactly the same to cast as his compel. So I think immediately get his transfix down to a 3+, just to support that supporting nature of him.
Yeah, I do think that's a mistake though.
Yeah, so do I.
Because why would you transfix?
Exactly. You've never ever got a reason to transfix. Now it's something that we think that we touched on when we were talking about the main rulebook, but one thing that you will have heard us talk about time and time again will be Fell Beasts and Fell Beasts themselves. And of course when we start discussing raids, named raids in particular, Fell Beasts, there's a reason why we see so many Fell Beasts. They're cheap.
Very cheap, too cheap.
They're cheap. For what they do, they are incredibly cheap. So if we look here, an armoured Fell Beast, a Horned Fell Beast is 75 points, that gives you the extra strength. A armoured Fell Beast is 70 points, that gives you +1 armour, so you defend 7. And a normal Fell Beast is 50 points. Now for 50 points you get a flying monster that you can use monstrous stats with.
50 points.
And suddenly negates a lot of the combat issues that you get with ring raids. With them of course being one attack, you don't really have that problem anymore.
It more than negates the problems.
Absolutely.
You get so many benefits for 50 points.
Of course you do. Extra strength, extra defence, you've got the
monstrous power attacks.
The brutal power attacks are absolutely brutal, and the fact that they can fly around. Now I think that it's a commonly held belief that Fell Beasts are probably about 20 points undercosted.
Yeah.
There or thereabouts. So I think that a full Fell Beast should cost about 70-75 points.
I agree. I think I'll just get rid of the budget Fell Beast. So you've got the armoured or the horned. They're your choices.
But I still think I think there's a place for a normal Fell Beast at 70, but then at that point, if you're adding an extra defence, then or an extra strength, then really that should just be +5 points. So I think that an armoured Fell Beast and a horned Fell Beast should both be 75 points, and I think a normal Fell Beast should be 70 points. That's my opinion. If you're going through and doing stats the same kind of way that you do other things, there's absolutely no reason why, a normal Fell Beast should be 70 points. And that might even encourage to see more horned Fell Beasts and more armoured Fell Beasts as a result of that.
Yeah.
50 points is too damn cheap. So apart from that fix with the spell, we were talking about the Betrayer. Really, when it comes to fixing the Betrayer, it's not necessarily just about fixing the Betrayer, it's about looking at some of the other profiles, and the next one we're going to come to is the dreaded Knight of Umbar. So Knight of Umbar is pretty good, isn't he, Steve?
He's good. He's one of the most common wraiths that you'll see.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason is because he's so good in combat and he gets so many will. And if he wins the combat, he's not losing any will. He's
not losing it. So he immediately negates one of the weaknesses for ring raids. And it's a good weakness. I think it makes a lot of sense that they lose a will point each turn. But if he is winning a fight, so not causing a wound like Kamul even, but if he's winning the fight,
which is likely if he's picking the fights, which he can do if he's on a Fell Beast.
Which he can do when he's on a Fell Beast. He doesn't lose that will point. Now, I don't think that as a rule itself is the problem. Yeah. I think the problem comes with, this is a 3 might as well. He's got an extra point of might in there. But he's also got 14 wills. He's getting an extra might. He's getting all these cool special rules. He can copy fight, strength or attack values of his opponent. But he's got 14 will. Now I actually think the Knight of Umbar, with all of the other things that he's got going on, I think his casting values are absolutely spot on and right. He's not a casting wraith. But I think that he should have 10 will, maybe 12, but 10 to 12 will.
Yeah.
Just so there is a little bit more of a risk there when you're putting him in, because at the moment, him being able to get that will back, being so good in combat, having that might, I just think that he's too good.
I agree.
So that is definitely how we would fix the 2 named raves that appear in the Harad and Umbar list. Let's get on to some of the other named heroes. So we're actually going to group 3 heroes together in the next point, because we're probably going to make a similar point for them. So we have Suladan, the Serpent Lord, we have the Hasharin, those ninjas, and then we have the Corsair version of the Hasharin, Dalamir, Fleet Master of Umbar. Now straight away when we look at these guys, the main issue with them, they're mid points heroes, they're mid kind of points heroes. And it's quite interesting, because a lot of discussion when you talk about fixing a Haradrim and Umbar list actually is about the troops being a bit too cheap. But actually in the case of some of these heroes, I actually think that those 3 are a little bit too expensive.
Yeah.
And let's do a very, very quick examination of that. Now I know that Erkenbrand is probably not the best example because he is very cheap and 25 points, but let's look at what you're getting. So Suladan fight 5, Erkenbrand fight 5, strength 4, strength 4. Erkenbrand is defense 7, Suladan is defense 5. Suladan's got 3 attacks, Erkenbrand's got 2, okay, fair enough, and 2 wounds versus 3, courage 5, that's the same, and he's got the extra will points here. But he's 90 points. He's 90 points. Now I actually think that Suladan probably needs to be around 80 points. I think that Suladan needs to be around 80 points and needs to be coming to 90 points maximum if you give him that horse, like maximum. I think that with a horse he probably needs to be coming up to 85, 90 points, and then you might, I mean you do see him, but you see him because that's the option.
Yes, yeah. I think at defence 5 he's very fragile.
Yeah.
Very fragile, and for 90 points,
yeah.
A standard warrior beats him in combat. You can quite easily wound him at defence 5.
Absolutely. Now Hasharins are actually pretty good. You get quite a lot in there, but again they can be reasonably fragile. So yeah, they got the 3 attacks and they got the 3 fate and 2 wounds, but they're only defence 4. They got some very, very cool special rules, but I do think again that they are slightly too expensive. And you're talking just 5 or 10 points out. If you reduce them down to 85 or 80 points maximum, I think that that kind of fits in with the rest of the books a little bit better. It's the same with Dalamir, because as soon as you then get to Dalamir is worth about 5 or 10, about 5 points I think more than a Sharin in a lot of ways, or 5 or 10 points more. He is worth that more. But are you going to pay 100 points for him?
Well, there's a reason you don't see him. Defence 4, it's just, in the game we play these days, and the high strength values and things like that, it's not worth the risk spending 100 points on a defence 4 model. Who is profile?
Yeah.
You look at it, it's quite a combat profile by the defence.
Now you look at the lists, the Harad and Umbar list as well. The strength isn't necessarily in the heroes. The strengths are in the troops. And that should continue to be that way in some kind of way, shape, or form. Although there do need to be some tweaks. But as such, you probably just want to bring the costs of these heroes down just a touch, and then I think that those 3, you might see a little bit more of them. Now next up we're going to come to the Golden King. Now I don't have a huge amount of experience with the Golden King, do you?
No, I've played against him a couple of times. He's been a pain to play against, but yeah, not a great deal of experience.
Now he seems to be pretty good for 115 points with all the bits and pieces that he's got going on. But inexplicably, I think the one thing that I look at when I look at his profile is that he's written in to be a kind of support character. But this is a support character, 115 points, that's got 4 attacks and does not suffer the -1 penalty for wielding a 2-handed weapon. So basically Burley, the chop special rule.
Okay.
Which, in my opinion, absolutely. I mean, you're getting a banner in there. The Golden King's throne also counts as a banner. It doesn't hinder him. He doesn't suffer a -1 penalty for carrying it.
No.
Which I think is right when you look at the model, but 4 attacks doesn't seem right. You've got 2 guys who are holding him who aren't going to be doing any
I think
attacking.
that's where they've got the attacks from, because I mean, I'm not saying it's right, because they're carrying him, so
Yeah.
you know, that's where they get the chop special rule, because they have the chop special rule,
Yeah.
but they're carrying him, so I'm not sure that it should apply.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It's a lovely model to look at, but it doesn't match the profile that it's been given.
Absolutely, we completely agree with that. So a couple of things you could do there. You could remove chop, or maybe you could give it to him because he is on a platform, but you've got to reduce his attacks down. 4 attacks just does not make any sense to me.
No. Yeah, less attacks for me.
The next hero that we're going to come up to on our Haradrim evaluation of rules we'd like to see is the Haradrim Taskmaster. Now, Taskmasters are actually quite popular, and that's because they bring a lot to the table for only 60 points.
Yeah, it's a good profile. It's pretty much captain's profile.
It's captain's profile.
Captain's profile, and then the special rule is why people bring it. Getting a 50-50 chance of getting a might point for free or a heroic action for free is a massive draw for them, I think.
Yeah.
So that needs looking at.
Absolutely. I look at the Haradrim Taskmaster, and there are a few things. I think that, I mean, he's like you say, he's got the chieftain's profile pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you're paying more points for him, but he's so much better. I don't know why he would be fight 4, because he's not like he's a taskmaster. Yeah, he's like an officer, but he's not like a captain, is he? He's got the whip. So maybe reduce his fight value to 3. You might have him as 4, but the other area he probably doesn't need the two might. You probably have the 1s across the board there, or different heroic stats to a captain. But I think the key one with the Whip of Masters is on a 4+ a 50-50 chance for might points to be free for your heroes.
Including himself. So that 2 might could go up quite easily.
Absolutely. Now, you could do it where you maybe gave him extra will and you had like 3 attempts to do that. You know, you spend a point of will, and when you spend that point of will, you get a might point back for free. I think that, you know, kind of like...
You've still got a roll on it.
You still got a roll on it.
Yeah.
You could either do that on a 4+, you can make this a 5+ to cast, so it's just not a 50-50, it'd be 1 in 3.
Like an Alfred-esque rule.
Yeah, exactly. So just tweaking it ever slightly to reflect that. Now, I personally think it'd be quite cool if, you know, you actually reflected the fact that he's whipped someone to get that going. So he can only do that if there is a friendly model within 2 inches, and you choose a model, you whip it, you inflict a strength 2 hit, you've got a chance of killing the thing, because that's what he's doing. You know, in order to make that happen. And it just brings a little bit of extra risk in there for a model that really we probably see too much of, but for very good reason. So next up we're going to group 2 heroes together. We've actually got a Corsair captain who is very, very good, and also his buddy the bosun.
Yep.
Buddy the bosun. So what do we think about these guys?
So similar to what we spoke about with the Dunland and the Scouts, we kind of think there should be some kind of buff for bringing pure Corsairs, and that way you may see these guys because you just don't see them. And the models are gorgeous. I love these models. I mean, one of them's modelled on Peter Jackson, so that's quite cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, a buff for bringing a pure Corsair force. So some kind of special rule for them to sort of show that.
Absolutely. So I mean, you've got to look at what are some of the unique things about the Corsairs. Well, originally they were, you know, a good way for evil to be able to access sort of high fight value in the fight 4. So, you know, and I understand that these are experienced, hardened men. Maybe you would make them fight 4. Maybe you would, which they have done across the board. We'll talk about Reavers though being fight 5 when we get to it. But they've also all seem to have throwing daggers. You know, throwing daggers. So again, you could introduce something from a shoot value orientated point of view, or those throwing daggers count as being poisoned, rerolls, or something along those lines for bringing a pure Corsair force. And you could also reward the captain or the bosun. I think the bosun his banner probably needs to be a bit bigger.
Yes.
His banner effect, so his commanding bellow, 3 inches. You know, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's overcosted, but that you can't pass that on. So it's not like having a 25-point banner. When he dies, he dies. And yeah, he's got 2 wounds and 1 bait, but he's a defense 4 model.
Yeah.
So as such, giving that a bit of a buff, or giving him a buff, or allowing him and the captain to buff other warriors a little bit more. So maybe if they are within 3 inches of each other, they give something else off, whatever that might be. whether that be a fight value buff to things within a certain range or whatever else. But yeah, something along those lines I think would be a good way of encouraging more pure Corsair style lists. So we're not going to talk about the Mumuk, that's not our area of expertise, and that's probably going to be about it for what we think about the heroes from the Haradrim. Let's move on to the warriors of Harad and Umbar. So we're actually going to base off a lot of our opinions here off of your basic Haradrim warrior, because actually the basic Haradrim warrior seems to be reasonably costed.
Yeah, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, I mean, he gets his poisoned arrows in there, you know, he's not fantastic, he's got the armour suit. There are options to upgrade, you know, which is fine. I think that the Haradrim warrior is a good basis to look at other profiles, and I think the first one that we need to look at is the elite version of this, which is the Serpent Guard. So Serpent Guard are actually pretty good, aren't they? They're 8 points. You get an extra fight value, and they're the same across the board. But they also come with a spear, as well as that poison blades +1 to wound die. So you do see quite a lot of backlines of Serpent Guard across the board. Now, I don't have a problem with the profile too much. Again, they're supposed to be elite men, whilst I'm a little bit adverse to there being so much sort of fight for access for evil men across the board when there isn't for good men. With that being said, I don't have too much a problem with this dude, apart from one thing.
They're a little bit cheap.
Just a touch.
Not by a lot.
A touch cheap. So again, if you compare the two profiles, so you got Haradrim Warrior there. Haradrim Warrior 6 points. So let's assume that a point of fight value is worth 1 point. So they've got that. So immediately they are 7 points. 7 points. And they also get the spear as well as that poison blades rule. Spear as well as that poison blades rule. So we actually think that these guys probably should be 9 points. 9 points, that's what we're going for here. And I think at 9 points that probably reflects that they are an elite. They're not too cheap to spam them as such. They're not expensive, but I think that just brings them in a little bit in line with the basic Haradrim Warrior. And this goes exactly the same for the Serpent Rider. Serpent Riders currently are 13 points. They're the same cost, for example, as a Rider of Rohan. But what do they get? They're getting an extra point of fight value. They're not getting the extra defense, but they are also getting a Poison Blade special rule, and they're coming with a Lance, the War Spear, for 13 points. That is too cheap. That is too cheap. Now I'd be tempted to look at that and say, well, they should be about 15 points when you compare them to a Rider of Rohan, perhaps. But I think even if you just brought them in line and made them 14 points, that would probably make a little bit more sense. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, totally agree. So they can support as well?
If they are dismounted, they can support.
Can support on a horse. Sure.
Yeah, War Spear there doesn't follow the rules for a spear until they're dismounted.
Oh, right, okay.
Follows the rules for a lance while they're mounted. So now we're going to come on to the Corsair profiles, and we come back to what we were saying when we were discussing the Corsair Captain and Bosun, perhaps a bit of a reward for taking a pure Corsair force. Let's look at the basic Corsair of Umbar. They are 7 points, and they've got some decent options. You've got boarding park, bow and shield, and they come with throwing daggers. 7 points, pretty cheap for a fight 4 model, but they are only strength 3, defense 3, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 3. So actually I don't think that is a bad profile at all. But I do think that there should be some kind of buff from taking a pure Corsair force, whether that be something to do with those throwing daggers being poisoned, or better shoot value with that, although we're repeating that theme. We'd end up repeating that theme with quite a few forces, I think.
I think it's a good idea though.
I do. I think it's something which isn't too powerful, but does just enough to make certain things relevant. Because there's a big difference between shooting at 4+ and therefore 5+ when you're moving, and shooting at 3+, for example. But the one profile with the Corsairs that probably does really need a look at is, of course, your Corsair Reaver. Corsair Reavers, what makes them so good, Steve?
Fight value, 2 attacks. Fight 5.
Fight 5, the same of elves.
Heroes fight value.
It certainly is. You know, they are the same fight value as Aemma, Knight of the Pelennor, described as being untouchable on the battlefield of the Pelennor. You know, and they're the same fight value as him. Now they are supposed to be elite Corsairs, but I think the fight 5 is unnecessary.
Yeah, it's too much. It just makes them too formidable. They can take your heroes out, and that's something you paid 10 points for.
Yeah,
because they've got 2 attacks as well.
They've got 2 attacks.
So that's the thing. So if both attacks like succeed in striking one of your heroes, you're in trouble.
Absolutely. So I look at that and I actually think, well, what you're paying for here really, I think, should be the extra attack. I think the extra attack all day long. That's what you're going for there. They've also, remember they've got armour. Of Corsair Reaver. Corsair Reavers, so they are higher defence than their counterparts, their normal counterparts. But I think that they should probably still be fight 4. So 2 attacks, great, no worries with that at all. I think the best comparison that I could do with that is comparing an Uruk-hai warrior, just a basic Uruk-hai warrior, with a berserker. A berserker, even though you're paying so many more points, doesn't become fight 5. He stays as fight 4, he just gains the extra attack. And the extra attack is worth it for those points, because for a fight 5 2 attack model at 10 points, even with it being defense 4, is pretty cheap. And then we come on to the final Corsair troop profile, which is of course the Arbalesters. Now we don't see many of these guys, but perhaps again we can find a way of making them a bit more relevant. So these are crossbowmen that are defense 3 but effectively defense 6 as long as they're not in combat.
Yes, that's correct.
Basically. And crossbowmen are very good in the game.
They are, yeah. If you get a good position with your crossbowmen, then you're laughing, really.
Yeah, and we see that quite a lot of the time with Uruk-hai crossbowmen as a very, very, very good example. And technically, these should be able to sort of outshoot them in that kind of area. However, we don't see a lot of them, and I think that's because within this list, there are other profiles that make, they're not part of the Serpent Sting, of course, so you can't take the 50%, but there are other shooting options within a Haradrim list which are probably better for the army as a whole. Yeah. So again, I think it comes back to what can you do to encourage to see these profiles. I think if you go along that line of, if you've got a pure Corsair force, Dalamir maybe in there, the Corsair Captain, Bosuns, include all of the Corsair profiles. I think that if there was maybe that increased shoot value, 3+ shooting, I do think that one alone would suddenly make people think, oh, maybe I'll give that a go. So that would be a good way of bringing in Corsair Arbalesters.
So now we move on to the Watcher of Karna. The Watcher of Karna is horrible. Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
In my opinion, the worst profile in the game.
Easily. He's way too cheap at 9 points. Fight 4, Strength 3, Defense 4, 2 attacks, 1 wound, Courage 3. But it's his special rules that he gets. I mean, he's resistant to magic, and we're not really sure why he's resistant to magic.
You read the fluff, and they're supposed to be these kind of warrior priests, and I guess that's where that's coming from. But they're not magic.
Resistance to magic is a powerful special rule.
Of course it is.
Too powerful for someone who was, a descendant of a priest. He's not a priest.
Yeah, if you're not going to make elves resistant to magic, then don't make a Warrior of Karna or a Watcher of Karna resistant to magic.
He re-rolls his wands to wound with his shooting because of the poisoned arrows.
Yeah.
And then he gets a +2 bonus to his courage to charge monsters. Steely Nerve. Terror causing enemies, not monsters, sorry, so that's the things more.
It becomes the courage of an elf.
Yeah, it's too much for 9 points.
For 9 points. Now, you will mostly see these guys kitted out at 10 points with their bow for a point, but you're getting a fight 4, 2 attack, poison arrow wielding model with all those other special rules for 10 points. Now, I think straight away you look at these guys, and when you start adding up all of the, I think that they are definitely an 11 or 12 point model.
Because they've got the shoot value of an elf.
Exactly.
As well.
They've got a 3+ shoot value. We didn't even mention that. They've got 3+ shoot value. 3+ shoot value. They're too good for their points. I think that you either point these guys more or you strip them down, because they don't fit. They do feel filthy.
Yeah.
And I think that SBG on the whole, there aren't many things that feel really, really filthy. There are some things which are good, but I don't even think that Felbeasts, although undercosted, I don't think they feel filthy.
No.
I don't think they feel like, I don't think ring raid. I think some of the named raid special rules sometimes can feel a bit filthy, but these feel filthy in the game. So you could either make them 11 or 12 points, or more, or you could remove some of the things, which I would be more in line with. What would you look at removing?
Possibly giving them 1 attack. That's one way to do it, because that takes a lot away from the profile then. Maybe even a lower fight value. I'm not too sure.
Well, I think if you take a bow, I think there should be something, because I can understand it. They're a dual wielding model, a lot of them, and then some of them have got obviously bows modelled with them as well. Now, I think that you know, if they take a bow, then maybe they lose the attack or something along those lines. That's not a bad way of doing it, because then you've got to choose the role. Do you want a kind of 2-attack fighting hero? I mean, they're 5'4".
Yeah, 5'4". I mean, so it's
now again, they're an elite man, but there's a lot of access to that in this list. Resistance to magic, I think resistance to magic, or that terror causing enemy plus thing, one of them can go. I think resistant magic should go.
Let's be honest, people they don't take them and throw them into combat there.
No.
Whenever I've been against them.
No, but it's the fact that
they're shooting. So that's what I mean. So do they need to be 5'4" then?
I don't think they need to be 5'4" to attack.
Fight 3, I think, and 1 attack.
Fight 3, 1 attack
for 9 points. I'd be happy with that.
And drop resistance to magic.
Yeah, that's
for 9 points. If you're going to do 9 points for that.
Yeah.
I think that's there's lots of different ways you go. Watch Arcana. You know, it's the fact that they will probably outshoot a lot of things because of, you know, combination of the 50% bow limit stuff, and then also poison arrows. The fact they've got a 3+ shoot value. They will outshoot a lot of stuff. But it's the fact that you then got to try and get into combat, and all of a sudden when you get there, well, I'm a cavalry player. You know. Really, if I'm up against a shooting army, I want to close that distance. I want to try and get in. I've got to run the risk of getting there. I get there, I'm in just as much trouble, because they're 2 attacks and they're 5'4". So Watch Arcana is probably one of the profiles across this whole series that I would want to have changed the most myself personally. So that's Watch Arcana. Either a lot more points or strip them down.
Yeah.
Next up, we are going to talk about the big guys. It's the Abrakan Guard. So the Abrakan Guard are, you know, we do actually see quite a lot of them, and they are 8 points for a fight 4, strength 4, defense 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 3 warrior. They come with a 2-handed weapon, but they also get effectively the burly special with their chop.
Yes.
They don't suffer the -1 penalty when wielding that, and that's for 8 points.
Yeah.
So let's go back and do our comparison with the Haradrim Warrior. So they're getting an extra fight value, they're getting an extra strength, they are the same defense, same attack, same courage. You could say that, yeah, they lose their the poisoned arrows, but that doesn't really matter in this case, does it? They've got chop and they've got a 2-handed weapon, that's 4 more. Now I think, well, you could, even if you said, right, the chop and the poison arrows, you swap like for like, that should be 3 more points than 6. I think these guys shouldn't be 8 points, it should be 9. What do you reckon?
Yeah, about 9 points is about right. It is a really nice profile. It's too cheap, but it's not like some of the other stuff in this book. So yeah, just 1 more point. And like you say, you do see a lot of them, but I think that's more the aesthetics of it, because the models are gorgeous. Models are gorgeous, but yeah, 9 points. Yeah, we're happy with that.
Yeah, I think 9 points, you know, possibly 10, but 9 points probably. I think that just kind of reflects their profile a little bit better. Next up, we've got one which we don't see too much, which means we'll probably talk about it a little bit, and that is, of course, the Black Numenorian. So what do you think about Black Numenorian, Steve?
Not had a great deal of experience with them, but from looking at the profile today, there's some things on there that are a little bit off. The Venom Blade rule, for one. Have you used these?
Yeah, I've used Black Numenorians, particularly Castellan of Umbar, so the ability to go up to fight 5. Effectively then, you are getting a high elf, really. It's a high elf. You got they're fight 4 base, but if you do the Castellans, then they go up to fight 5, strength 3, defense 6, 1 attack, 1 wound, they're only courage 4. They do cause terror, but it's quite expensive for all of that at 9 points, and when you start adding up the stuff. So I actually think, when I look at this profile, I think the upgrades is a big part of it. It's a big part of it. I like the idea of a Castellan of Umbar upgrade, but why would you pay 2 points for an extra point of fight value when everything, the way that the game is costed, it should cost 1 point for an extra fight value? So in the example of Westfold Red Shields, it is a good example for that, to have an increase in fight value, or even Kingsguard and the like, right? Is that +1?
+1, yeah.
Yeah, +1 for an to go up to fight 6. So why would these guys spend 2 points to go up to fight 5? So I think that's the first way that you fix that area of it, is make the Castellan of Umbar upgrade cost 1 point, not 2. And the second point is to do with Venom Blade, isn't it?
Yeah, the fact that he's got to pay for it for a start.
Yeah, it's basically fainting.
Yeah, it's fainting. So it's a strange one because he can faint anyway.
It's fainting, yeah, it's fainting, but obviously there's no risk.
Yeah.
There's no risk with the fainting. Re-rolling one's to wound. But are you going to pay a point per troop to be able to do that? Probably not.
No.
So, any ideas about how you could make Venom Blade better?
Just give it him for free.
Yeah, just make them so that Black Numenorians have got the Venom Blade special.
Just special rule Venom Blade, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a really, really good way of improving the Black Numenorian profile. It seems to fit in. Just give them all Venom Blade completely for free, and then I think that we would see a few more of them. Not loads more, but I think we'd see a few more of them because it makes them a little bit more viable. So next up, we are on to the Mighty Mahood, and we're actually going to start things off with the Warrior, aren't we?
Yes, it's a pretty basic profile.
Height 3, normal man profile. Strength 4 though.
Strength 4, yeah.
You know, they are supposed to be a little bit stronger, but they're quite low defense and they are low courage, but they do have some nice options. They can take banners. Blowpipes is a bit unique as well, and they've got the option for a spear. But their profile probably isn't the issue for me. It's the points cost again.
Yeah, they're a point or two too expensive when you look at that profile, and you only ever see people take them, like you say, because it's a rare. They're quite rare models. People, when they get them, people want to use them. They're not using them to be competitive. They're not using them, to be beardy or anything like that. They're using them because they like the models. They've gone out and got the models. So really, we want to get them in the game more. Yeah. We want to be able to make them a more viable list.
More viable list, and a good way of doing that straight away. Again, we're just comparing always to the Haradrim Warrior for those 6 points. When you cost up this model, I actually think that 7 points is probably reasonable for what you are getting in the game. And then you could probably take that up into your Mahood Raider as well. So straight away, Mahood Raider is 17 points. You'd immediately, because the profile is basically the same, you'd immediately make him 16 points. And I think that 16 points, he's 17 points, I think 16 points for everything that you get in wouldn't be terrible if you compare it to some of the other cavalry, of course, like the Serpent Rider. If we're making the Serpent Rider 14 points, I think if he's 16 points because he's getting that Impale rule, I think that kind of works out.
Yeah, because at 16 he's still paying 8-9 points for the camel.
Yeah.
On the special rule.
Yeah.
If he went down to 7.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that seems to work out a little bit for the Mahood Raider and for the Mahood Warrior. Let's move on to the next area. And the final part of the Harad and Umbar list that we want to look at is the Half Troll of Harad. Now, we haven't really got too much to compare these to. They're quite expensive, 23 points. They cause terror. It's a fight 5, 2 attack, 2 wound model that's strength 5 and defense 6. But they've got quite low courage, 23 points. Now, I don't actually like the look of these guys. I don't like seeing them on the table, but that doesn't mean I don't think that they are broken necessarily.
No, I mean, I've seen a few. I've seen some armies what are all half troll armies. People seem to do quite well with them.
Yeah.
But it's like you say, there's nothing to compare them with. It's hard to compare them with a standard man profile and work out what you're paying for and what you've been overcosted for, etc.
Yeah.
But I think I think that they're not too bad for the price. I don't think.
No,
defense 6, fight 5, strength 6, strength 5. It's all right. 2 attacks.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that they are too expensive. I don't think that they are too expensive. But I think that my opinions will probably be based off the fact that I just don't like them in the first place. So do they need tweaking or changing at all? Personally, I'm not too sure. I don't have much experience. But if you do, you know what to do. Get in the comments below and let us know. And the final part of looking at the Fallen Realm sourcebook for rules we'd like to see, we are of course looking at the Eastern Kingdoms. Now the Eastern Kingdoms, I must admit, I'm going to put my hands up, you all know this from the sourcebook reviews, I have very, very little interest in. So I would prefer that you guys manage to get yourselves down into the comment section below and let us know what you guys think about these dudes. We're going to start things off talking about the top hero in this list. This of course Cummin the Eastling. Yeah.
Very good hero, very good Wraith. In the top 3, we think? Wraiths? Cummin?
Yeah, I would say so.
You see Ed use him a lot and he uses him very well. I think we spoke about Sapwill being very easy to cast.
Yeah, it's a bit easy to cast.
For the effect that it has, I reckon it should be a 5 or a 6 plus.
And based on the fact that he doesn't seem to be, I mean, he is designed to be a little bit more of a combat wraith.
Yeah.
So as such, Sapwill probably on a 4 plus. It's a bit too easy for him, maybe on a 5 plus, and that kind of fits in with his whole Drain Courage 3 plus, Transfix 4 plus, Compel 5 plus, Sapwill 5 plus, Black Dart 6 plus. I think that fits in, and I actually I like his profile across the board. Yet we could come back and talk about the Fellbeast thing again. That's probably the main area where you would look at correcting this guy. But I think across the board, he's actually got a very, very decent, well thought of profile, which is not broken. No, but good.
I think he takes Fellbeast out of the Wraith profiles altogether. I think all them profiles are fairly alright.
Night Bombard's too good. He is. I love him, but he's too good. Yeah. But Kamal, we've got no problems with Kamal, so we're going to move on to the next hero, and that's Amdur, Lord of Blades. So Amdur, Lord of Blades, he's 100 points, so he's mid to expensive when you start getting to that point, and I actually think it's pretty great. 506,
506, yeah.
4, defense 6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 4, 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. Pretty good profile. But most of his points actually come from his special rules and the fact that he has an Elven Blade. Let's have a little look at his special rules, because it is one of those, unless this has been FAQ'd, which I know that I would want to see changed. He gets Blood and Glory, so he can regain a might point that he expended earlier in battle. He's great in Lords of Battle.
That's awesome. I played against him in the last game at the weekend, and he's really good. Really good. I kind of really didn't know what to do with him, because you have to throw big things in at him to try and kill him because of his stats.
Yeah.
But if he causes a wound on you, you're giving him might back.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, and he can be, as a result, he can be quite liberal with his might, which is one of the things which is good about him. Eastling Street Amdur as a banner, which I think is fine. It's not going to have a huge impact on the game. It's only a 3-inch banner as a hero. But it's this one here, unyielding combat stance. Whenever this model is knocked down for any reason, roll a d6. On a 4 plus, he keeps his foot in and is not knocked down. Now, I like the idea of that on foot. It's quite unique. It makes him seem like a little bit of a combat ninja, a bit Hasharin-like in that sense. But did you know that this also is done when he's on a horse?
Yeah, but he's still dismounted.
He's still dismounted?
Yes. This happened in the game.
Right, okay.
And we checked it out, definitely.
I've been at tournaments where because of the wording, whenever this model is knocked down for any reason, roll a d6. On a 4 plus, he keeps his foot in and is not knocked down.
No, he's
Lots of people were saying that if you knock down the horse,
he's still dismounted, because it's him, not the horse keeps his foot in. It's him.
Well, I agree with that. So I'm glad that that's cleared up. There we go. We don't even have to put that in rules. We like to see it is the rules. So make sure you play it right, guys.
Yeah, don't let anyone have you over.
So again, we're not particularly experienced in the Eastern Kingdoms, but the next area that I would want to look at is looking at the Eastling War Priest. The Eastling War Priest. Now he has Fury. But the way that it's written, because it affects all models from the Eastern Kingdoms within range, including heroes, that means that he also gives a Fury save to Fellbeasts, to horses, and that doesn't feel right for me. I think it's designed to be warriors. I think it's designed to be heroes and warriors. So I don't mind that rule, but I just think that would probably need clearing up. But apart from that, the Eastling War Priest seems pretty good.
Yeah.
However, we're next going to come to the Candish side of the list, and we're going to start things off with the Candish King on Chariot. Now, he was originally counted as a monstrous mount, and he still is a monstrous mount, but he can't do brutal power attacks, so he's not going around hurling things and the like, which I think is absolutely fine. But one area that I think that you could improve this guy, remember he's 90 points, his Chariot is 30 points. Now, Chariot, that makes him a 120 point hero.
It's a lot.
Now, for 120 points, you are getting a fight 6 hero, but for all intents and purposes, he's just like a king, basically, like a king or a slightly better captain. So for 120 points, that's very, very expensive. And although he's very good in that respect, I think he probably is a bit expensive, particularly his. I think that he's a bit expensive, full stop. So if we look at a Candish Chieftain is 55 points. So he's got an extra fight value, so that would take him 60 points because he's a hero. An extra defense, 65 points. An extra courage, 70 points. An extra will, 75. He should be 75 points. and then he should be 80 points. So I think if you made him 80 points, then I think that at 110 with his chariot, 100 to 110 with his chariot, I think that he would be worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good way to go with him. So yeah, we probably agree that maybe his banner, you know, you could probably do it so that if you take a pure Candish force, again, there is a benefit for taking Candish Kings, Candish Chieftains, Candish Warriors, Candish Charioteers and Candish Horsemen. And, you know, they're already pretty good fight value across the board, so you probably will look at improving that. But maybe you could give him an extended banner. A
12-inch banner would be awesome.
A 12-inch banner if you take a pure Candish force. I think that would work. Or a banner that only they can benefit at 12 inches.
Yeah.
I think that would be pretty good. And another area that probably, I mean, this has been FAQ'd, but I think it got FAQ'd the wrong way. He's got a Chieftain's Axe, which is an elven blade. He's got an axe that he can feint with, basically, which I actually think that he should be able to piercing strike if he's got an axe.
I think that this is the thing for me. The elven blade rule, I think, is for roll-offs.
Yeah, it is for roll-offs.
I don't think it means that his axe is a sword.
No, it definitely doesn't. But it's been FAQ'd that way.
I think that's wrong.
I think that's wrong too. So that is a rule that we would like to see changed. Let him piercing strike. Now we've already talked about what we would do to piercing strike. Check out the original video because it is an area that we don't want this guy to be going around and, you know, being ridiculous, you know, strength 7 on his monstrous chariot craziness. That's not what we're talking about. But we do think that that's an area that could do with being looked at. So let's move on to the rest of the Candish profiles. And finally, I think one thing that I would like to see changed when it comes to the Candish list in particular is actually talking about the Candish horsemen. Now we think that Eastling Warriors are pretty fine, you know, across the board. You know, they seem to fit in with the game, as do Cataphracts. There doesn't seem to be any kind of any issues there. But Candish horsemen, they come with a bow, the same way that Riders of Rohan came with a bow, but they do not ignore the bow limit. So I think the Candish horsemen straight off the bat, 100% bows.
Yeah, definitely. Makes sense. I mean, when you look at the book and it says Wargear, Armour, Bow and Horse, it looks like something that maybe should have been, but it was never put. Because why, I don't understand why you'd equip something that you can't use.
Absolutely.
It would be an option, wouldn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I agree with that, totally.
And that's it for this episode of rules we'd like to see for Middle-earth strategy battle game going forward, specifically looking at the Fallen Realms. GBHL Steve and GBHL James will be back soon, looking at the next source book and looking at all the profiles that we would like to see tweaked and adapted going forward into new rules. Don't forget to comment, like, share and subscribe.
Support your Hobbit hosts in the links below.
Make sure you check out our Facebook page and our Twitter.
Support your Hobbit hobby.
And happy strategy battle gaming.